Ricky Thornton Jr. appeared to call for penalties against Mike Marlar and Jonathan Davenport for events that took place under caution during the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series race at Golden Isle Speedway on Saturday night. Before we get into this, I'd like to ask you, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos here at John Trent Racing. So, Ricky Thornton Jr. was not happy following the race, which he won at Golden Isle Speedway on Saturday night. Let's first listen to what he had to say in the Victory Lane interview, and then we'll get to what he said post-race to Flow Racing, where it sounds like to me that he's calling for penalties against both Mike Marlar and Jonathan Davenport. And if they don't happen, it sounds like he might leave the series and maybe follow the World of Outlaws or just maybe chase big money races. But let's listen to what he had to say following the race in Victory Lane about Mike Marlar and Jonathan Davenport. Let's take a listen right here.
Be honest with me. When you saw him go by you on the bottom, did you think there was any chance you were going to get back to the front?
Definitely not. I'm not quite sure why the 49 and 157 got to keep racing there. I ran into HUD at Deer Creek, get disqualified on the spot, but yeah, I guess we get some favoritism there and they get to do whatever they want.
Talk to me about that. What happened after?
So he's already upset at both Mike Marlar and Jonathan Davenport. It's unclear exactly what he was talking about here because I think in the Flow Racing broadcast, we didn't actually see what happened during that caution. They ran pretty much green all the way with till like 11 laps to go, and then the caution came out. Obviously, there was a lot of hard racing on the track between both Mike Marlar, Ricky Thornton Jr., and then Ricky Thornton Jr. and Jonathan Davenport, but it did appear like there was something that did happen under caution. You can see here right before the caution came out, 11 laps to go, you can see at that left rear quarter panel, Ricky Thornton Jr.'s car there, right next to Chris Madden. He's on the outside. That left rear quarter panel does look flush with the rest of the car. It looks clean, doesn't look like there's any damage. But then you can see here he's pacing the field under caution, and it does look like that left rear quarter panel is kind of jutting out, like there maybe some contact happened during that caution. We just didn't see it. So it's unclear exactly what happened. It does look like there was some kind of contact, but that does seem to indicate that's what Ricky Thornton Jr. is talking about. It sounds like he's talking about something that happened under caution with 11 laps to go and not the actual contact during the race. So I just wanted to point that out there. So he's obviously angry at that. Let's continue listening to what he had to say here.
After the race, and you're obviously displeasured.
Oh, I mean, 100%. I don't know, Mikey drives across my right front in 3, and he's mad at me. So, JD, I tried to cross him, and I probably shouldn't have stuffed it in there. But, I mean, you got to do what you got to do racing in the rubber.
Ricky, last year you came really...
So I think his answer there was a little bit confusing, right? Because I think he's talking about in that beginning part of the question, he's talking about what's happening under the caution there. And then obviously goes into talk about what was going on during the green flag and during the race. So I think that's maybe why there was some confusion there. And I think why a lot of people might have been confused as to why he was so angry following the race. Because I think he actually is responding to what happened under caution. And if you go over here to Twitter, you can see this is why he was mad. He was responding to a woman named Nicole Watterson, who is not happy with Ricky Thornton Jr. But he says, I wasn't mad about them being mad, was mad that the series did nothing for being ran into under yellow. I can care less if you like me or not. With almost 400 wins, I must be one of the biggest a-holes then. So I think it's very clear he is indeed talking about what happened under yellow with 11 laps to go that we just didn't see in that Flow Racing broadcast. So he's definitely making that very clear here on X or Twitter. But let's listen to what he had to say following the race after the Victory Lane interview, where I think he actually calls for penalties and then he threatens to leave the series if penalties are not doled out. So let's listen to what he had to say here.
There, just go over those sequence there of you and JD battling out, the yellow coming out. It was kind of it was chaos out there for a little bit.
Yeah, no, it was for sure. I was just kind of riding behind Nordorf there, just saving my stuff. And Marlar got to the outside of me and kind of chopped my right front. And so we got together, and naturally you go up the racetrack. So I'm sure he was mad because I went up the racetrack. But, I mean, fuck, he ran me over under yellow, so did JD. So I wasn't quite sure whether they realistically were still racing after that. Just what happened with me and HUD last year at Deer Creek, I was DQ'd on the spot before I even got off the racetrack. So I don't know. If something don't happen on that, I don't know if we really even want to come back. So
So that, to me, says something. If something don't happen on that, I don't know if we really want to come back. that does indeed sound like he is calling for penalties against both Mike Marlar and Jonathan Davenport for whatever happened under caution with 11 laps to go. And he's pointing to precedent that he believes was set between him and Hudson O'Neal at Deer Creek last year, where he was indeed disqualified for similar contact. And then it also sounds like if a penalty isn't doled out, isn't given to Davenport and Mike Marlar, he's saying he might not come back. And when he said to me, that sounds like he's not going to come back, return to the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series, which is really interesting because Flow Racing has an article up that they just published today saying that Ricky Thornton Jr. is indeed locked in to race the rest of the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series. But it sounds like maybe that's contingent on whether or not the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series penalizes Jonathan Davenport and Mike Marlar. It also could be he's still just saying it in the heat of the moment. Obviously, he's still upset and he's still angry. He's still wearing his fire suit. It's obviously not that much longer after the race has concluded. So maybe he hasn't calmed down enough yet. Maybe had some more time to process it and think about it. And he's just still just in that heat of the moment, making some comments to Flow Racing about that. And maybe he's also just trying to send a message like, hey, to the Lucas officials saying like, you better start penalizing this stuff. This is stuff that you do indeed need to penalize. But we'll see what happens. I haven't seen anything from Lucas on that, whether or not they're going to be penalizing Marlar or Jonathan Davenport. They've just been promoting the next two races at Ocala Speedway down there in Florida. So we'll see what happens. Ricky Thornton Jr. has already raced in the World of Outlaws this year. So maybe he does follow through on that threat. He goes and joins the World of Outlaws. Maybe he runs kind of a hybrid schedule where he just follows big money races and he picks and chooses what he wants to do. It's obviously still early in the season. He has a lot of opportunities open for him, and we'll see what happens. But to me, that does indeed sound like he wants them to penalize Jonathan Davenport and Mike Marlar. We'll see what, as I said, we'll see what happens. But let me know what you let me know what you guys make of this. Do you think that he's calling for Lucas to penalize them? Do you think he wants them to penalize Jonathan Davenport and Mike Marlar? What do you make of his threat that he might not return to the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series? Do you think he's actually that's what he's saying? Am I completely out of line here? And that's not what he's saying. Let me know in the comments below. And I will say I did reach out to Ricky Thornton Jr. to get clarification on these comments. I asked him about that post-race comment, and this is what I wrote. I said, hey, I'm listening to your post-race interview with Flow Racing, and it sounds like you want Lucas to penalize Mike Marlar and Jonathan Davenport, or you might not return to the series. Is that accurate? And then I asked him for more details on what exactly happened under caution, because, again, I haven't seen video of what happened. It was not on Flow Racing, so it's really unclear what exactly happened. All we can go by is kind of like that left rear quarter panel was not damaged before the caution came out, and then during the caution, somehow it did indeed got damaged. So something happened, just don't really know exactly what it is. But again, let me know what you guys make of what Ricky Thornton Jr. had to say here in the comments below.